Leigh, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off with first, where do you come from where do you come from in a horror film background?
Where do I come from? Meaning, how did I get into horror?
Yes, because you've been described as being part of the Splat Pack.
Well, that's interesting. The Splat Pack. I do like these little media sound bites that kind of. It's good. It condenses everything, so you can say like, okay, it's a grunge band, or it's this or that. So the Splat Pack for me is like a shorthand term, and it was good to be a part of it. I mean, I was so happy just to have made a film, and to have had people go and see it. Like that was my life's dream. So in no way would I ever be like, oh, the Splat Pack. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm happy to just be a part of any pack, a group that has made a film. But it's interesting you asked that, because as a horror fan, I never came at it from a splat background. I was always someone who was much more obsessed with films that scared the hell out of me. I used to read Fangoria, and I loved Evil Dead. I loved, Cannibal Holocaust, gory stuff. I loved Tom Savini. But as a fan, I would seek out anything that was truly scary. In fact, I went through a phase where I became obsessed with 80s TV movies that were made in the States. And during the 80s, for some reason, the TV networks like NBC, CBS threw all this money to make movies of the week. And some of them are truly scary. There's one called Don't Look Under the Bed. I hope I'm getting that title right. Another one, The Haunted. And they are truly scary. So I guess that's my true passion when it comes to horror films, which if you think of horror as a big tree, and each branch is a little subgenre. So you've got zombie horror, haunted house, slasher films. I was interested in the creepy, chilling, haunted house, ghost subgenre of horror.
Okay. So we were discussing this a little earlier so in the 80s, I mean, there was a slasher and kind of the main blood and guts kind of flying at the screen. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on these things. 90s, we kind of came back and kind of parodied it, kind of with the Scream stuff, still keeping it horror. But not taking us too seriously anymore. And then you guys came along, and why when early thousands?
Or 2004, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's when the Hatch and all these things were coming out. Why was that time, like, why were we transitioning into this more kind of realistic horror films?
At that time?
Yes. What do you think? I mean, do you have any
My personal opinion on it, I think that it's hard to summarize the zeitgeist. You can do it in hindsight. Everybody can look back at 1991 now, in 2010, and write an essay about why they think Nirvana became huge. Because we have the benefit of hindsight, so we're analysing history. But I don't know if when you're in the eye of the storm, you really know that you're in the middle of a movement. So I don't know if that essay has been written yet, but my own personal opinion is just that type of horror film, the visceral, gory stuff, like Saw, Hostel, stuff like that, hadn't really been recognised by a mainstream audience. It had always been there, but it was always bubbling in the underground. It was more like heavy metal music or something. It was something that a passionate core of people loved, but the mainstream public weren't into. And I feel like at some point with everything, if it bubbles underground for long enough, eventually it rises to the surface for a while and has a peak. And that was around 2004 was the moment for that type of visceral horror film. You could make a lot of sort of maybe political assumptions about the state of the world at that time, around 2004. The Iraq War had just started. There was a lot of doom and gloom. People were being accused of torturing, prisoners of war. It was, if you want to make that correlation, you could. Maybe the public, not just in North America but around the world, was kind of reacting to this stuff they were seeing on the news every night by, somehow venting in the theatre.
What okay, let's see. Writing horror film. what's your process there? Either with Insidious, how do you come up with those beats? How do you come up with that suspense? Can you talk a little about
It's
that?
really I think the rules that I follow are just what scares me. Similar to writing a comedy, you know. I think I in the middle or starting to write a comedy, and my rule is just, okay, does it make me laugh? And I've read interviews with people writing comedies who've said the same thing, and that's just what I apply to horror scripts. Is it scary for me when I'm sitting up at night writing it? Is this actually creeping me out? And I have done that before when I'm writing scripts on my own late at night. I've actually scared myself and been like, okay, like, and that's a good barometer, you know. So that's really my approach.
What to you makes a great horror villain? What are the essential elements?
The essential elements. For me, I think that the less you see a horror film villain, the better. It needs to be something that you can sort of create a mythology around. The unseen is what scares us, or the unknown. I mean, it's why Jaws works so well. You know, human beings have an inbuilt primal fear of being, you know, eaten alive from below. You know, you're out in the water, you're out of your element. The ocean is not a place where humans are at the top of the top of the chain, where we weren't meant to be in the water. So to be surrounded by these creatures, I feel like that's a primal fear that can be played on. It's this unseen thing, and I think you need to apply that to a horror villain. Is let the other characters talk about the person and build the mythology, but don't just put them out there and have them talk a lot. Because the more you see something, the more cynical you'll get about it. You know.
Yeah, I think you cracked that really well with Insidious. You know, we have a slow build into the whole world.
Yeah.
And I love some of the other aspects of it, like the ghost hunters. I think it's very contemporary.
Yeah.
Kind of look at what we see on television. Can you talk about building Insidious and your process there?
I mean, with Insidious, I wanted it to have a little bit of everything that James and I love. Our approach is usually sort of an everything including the kitchen sink. You know, it's like we like to throw everything in there, put it in a blender and see what comes out. So with Saw, we had all these different influences and things we loved, and we tried to cram them into one film. Hopefully, when you see the film, it doesn't look like a pastiche. It looks like everything's cohesive and it links together. So in this film, we have, you know, the haunted house genre. There's a nod to that. We have these naturalistic characters and actors that we love. We also have a bit of humor with the Ghostbusters, the ghost hunters, I should say. We have a creature, because we love creature stuff. We love creature makeup. You know, we love Pan's Labyrinth, creatures like that. So we tried to put a little bit of that in there. It's like cramming everything you love into the one film and hoping that it turns out as always one cohesive piece.
And you just got acquired by Sony?
Yes, I know. I've had like 2 hours sleep. We were out partying last night after the Midnight Madness screening, and I barely know what's going on. Like, I checked the internet this morning, and I was like, oh my God, it says here we sold to Sony. So that's amazing. I love Sony as a company. I think their company culture is very filmmaker friendly, and yeah, I'm excited to learn more.
Okay, cool. And last question, what are some of your favorite horror films? Like, what are the ones you reference back to time and time again?
Well,
you mentioned Exorcist.
Yeah, I mean, there's one that I come back to time and time again that will always be number one for me, and that's The Shining, straight away. I mean, I just go, but that film is it's just masterful. To me, it's the top of the food chain when it comes to horror. Like, it's unbelievable. I still can't get through that film. When I'm on my own at night, if I'm watching that film, I can't get through it. I mean, I've seen that film hundreds of times. And, you know, I at this age, I shouldn't be scared by that, you know, as scared by that anymore, but I still am. It just has this primal hold on me, and it's just, it's brilliant. So that, to me, is always the on the top of the mountain. That's what I'm aiming for.